You see, all right. Everyone at the societies had a close encounter with a cryptid like an alien or a bandersnatch, but we're searching for the cryptid, the most dangerous and disgusting cryptid of all, the elusive podcaster. Are you familiar with those?
Podcasters, you're, you're talking crazy, man. There's
You're
no
saying
such
you don't
thing.
think there's no such thing as podcasters?
This is
What do you think?
1999. You know,
Oh, well, they're going to be on the rise soon. They're hideous creatures. They do nothing but sit around and talk about cartoons and lick Cheeto dust off their fingers. They're hideous.
you sure you're not thinking of Pokemon?
I've been watching.
Welcome to another episode of our Scott McNeil podcast.
Oh, we record these in like groups of two, and I didn't even realize we had like 8 Scott McNeil characters in these 2 shows.
But
Oh boy.
everyone vastly different. I've got to give him
Oh
that.
yeah, completely. We're starting with Mummies Alive, which Wikipedia describes as a result of the 90s mummy popularity boom, which I don't think was actually a thing.
What? When did this happen? Was it just in 1999 when the Mummy came out? The
Mummies
one
Alive.
year.
I'm going to read you exactly how it phrases it. It says, the show was part of a general trend of mummy mania in 1990s pop culture. Which I don't think that's a thing. I think people just always liked mummies.
I mean, I lived through the 90s and I remember this and the Brendan Fraser film, The Mummy, and then the animated series based on the Brendan Fraser film, The Mummy. And I think that was it.
Yeah, I mean, mummies have just always been like a relatively go-to monster. I don't, but you know, I don't know. Being myopic here, Mummies Alive. I don't know if it's necessarily Canadian, but it has very Canadian DNA.
Yes.
And
Good
by that I
friends,
mean,
the Canadians.
it has Scott McNeil, who's like Canada man, as far as Captain Canada. As far
It's
as I'm
got all
concerned.
of our usual Canada group voice actors in this.
Oh yeah. So I personally actually really liked the show.
Interesting. I was really surprised when you told me this beforehand. As I described it as I was losing the will to live after I'd watched the first 2 episodes. I really enjoyed the 3rd episode.
The 3rd one's the best, absolutely.
But I found it so tedious. I really struggled with it. And I remember watching some of this at the time and not thinking it was terrible. But first, let me share with you, if I may, my Mummies Alive anecdote. Cast yourself back to whenever this came out. I want to say 98, 99.
Yeah.
Picture this. my friend Sam's birthday party. Sam, a pompous ass of a child, but we had to get him a present. So I didn't buy him. My mum paid for it at the time, me being unemployed and a child. But the Mummies Alive action figures had come out, and I think the animated series was like due to come out. I'm sure the figures came out first. And we saw the Mummies Alive figures, and my mum was like, "Do you think you'd like one of these?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, these are cool." And we bought him Scarab, the villain.
Yeah.
And as I kid you not, as he was tearing off the wrapping paper of the figure, he went, "I hope this isn't one of those stupid Mummies Alive action figures."
Oh no!
And then he was like, "Oh, I guess he's not so bad," and he just put it to one side. And I was like,
no.
"Oh."
Oh boy.
And he was like, "That show sucks." And I don't think the show was even out at that point, which was a testament to the fact that Sam was a liar. I still avoid him. I still don't take his calls. I've got him on WhatsApp, but I never reply to his messages.
He's trying to get through and say Mummies Alive isn't so bad after all.
Hope he doesn't listen to this episode. No, I hope he does. I hope this is his much deserved comeuppance. He probably won't feel any. He won't feel any remorse.
Oh my God, that is a bummer feeling. I Birthday presents are like such a like tough game. Like make a registry for Christ's sake. Like kids don't know. Kids are bad judges of presents, and kids are bad at making from both ends. Are bad at making. They're like, oh, I want to be surprised. Like, I would just make a registry. Like
It's a good
I had
plan.
I had a similar story where I got a DVD. I don't even remember what it was. Some DVD for a friend, and I asked like another close mutual friend, "You're sure they don't have this one, right?" They're like, "No, no. I've been to their house. They don't have that one." And then unwrapping, they're like, "Oh, Tommy, I already have this one." I was like, I yelled at the kid that I confided. I was like,
what was the DVD? What was the DVD? Was it?
I don't even remember. It was
Deliverance.
Sure, why not? Why not? Gosh, Mummy. So let me level with you that I don't necessarily think this is particularly well written, but I think it is very pretty to look at. I think it's a very cool looking show. It's I can tell definitely probably some Japanese studios working on this one because it's very anime, especially the action scenes.
I noticed, I was going to say the same thing. It's very colorful and very vibrant, lots of shadows and the like. And one thing I noticed was, like you say, like the action scenes are very well done, very fast paced, very like dynamic, the way the characters move. And it felt like they put all of their budget into that because when the characters are just walking and talking like normal people, it feels like they were half finished. Because there's a scene where the boy walks through a door and it's like a South Park animation. And I was like, why is he moving like that? And then he was like the size of the door frame, despite being a tiny child. But then it'll quickly cut away to like a transformation scene. I'll be like, wow, that looks amazing. And you'll cut back and there's like a really awkward moving shot of someone just sitting in a chair.
Oh yeah. So it's clear they like saved a ton of budget or the decent studios for the transformations and the fights, and everything else in between was kind of an afterthought.
That was the vibe I got. Yes.
Well, yeah, I was pretty impressed by you had they blended like kind of goofy Western action with this art style that read to me is very anime. So beg your pardon. You had these bits of like Wrath, who's a little more on the comedic relief side, just like eating shit into a wall in the intro, which is like a very Western comedic relief beat, but in this very fluid anime style, and it just read as a really fun fusion in my eyes.
It did have some really good moments of animation, particularly in the third episode we watched, which was called A Dark and Shrieky Night.
It's a very cool one.
Which was a really good episode. We watched the first two and we watched that one. And that one has like the mummies are making these monster faces. And there's one point where someone's eyeballs just shoot out of the sockets. And it looks so good. I was really impressed with it.
When they do the scary faces, that's the best. It's like, and that's a good way to kind of spruce up your bland team leader guys. And he likes to make spooky faces and scare people. It's great.
Cease your pursuit. Who are you? What do you want with us? I'm Joe. I just want to be your friend. You know, bridge our two worlds, welcome you to Earth. Is that what you call this planet? We call it Lumat. Lumat? Is that right? Lumat. I must leave you. This air weakens me. Go, go. I understand. Space travel must be hard, huh?
If I may digress to characters immediately,
sure.
Because you said about the bland leader guy, I forgot he was a character because I don't remember him doing anything, and I remember the other three mummies, I should say, having such sort of well-defined, likable personalities, and then you had Jackal, I believe his name was, who
because he gets the jackal armor when he fights, so he's Jackal.
Yes. I don't really, it's like I'd forgotten he was even a character. I remembered the other three, and I'd forgotten that guy existed.
Well, I could never forget Jackal because he gets maybe the funniest scene in the 3 episodes we watched, where they find a guy about to drive drunk, and he just like goes up to him and his eyes pop out. Don't drink and drive. And does scares him out of fucking driving drunk.
He's intoxicated.
Then he shouldn't be driving.
He won't be.
Your keys. Come out, wherever you are.
Pardon me.
A little late for Halloween, pal.
Don't drink and drive. Some people will go out in any condition.
I was gonna say that was such a significant animation moment as well, because when have we ever seen a drunk guy in a cartoon before? Certainly
they
never on this show.
They got away with it because it's like halfway a PSA in execution. That I have to imagine that's like the only. They're like, no, we're teaching a lesson. Okay, standards and practices approved.
You're probably right. Yeah, they even. My goodness, that man's inebriated.
I would never. Assuming he is legally over the age of 21.
Really well animated drunk as well, I have to say. They really did.
Oh, yeah.
Just his stumbling movements where he's like crashing into the side of the car. It's very impressively done. Yeah.
I learned in theater school that acting drunk is trying to act not drunk. And I think they pulled it off.
That's what he did. I was impressed. I was impressed with all the side characters in that 3rd episode, like the 2 cops. But they go to a club and Nefertina does like a spoken word rap.
It was like a blues solo.
That's it. Yeah. It's like, I can't think of like is it just a blues solo? Is that the name for it? I was just thinking.
It's just a little blue. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking like the Goofy movie scene where you've got that, like the girl.
That's slam poetry.
Slam poetry. It was kind of a fusion of those 2 things.
Yeah.
We were on this boat and we had to jump out, and we got really wet. We just wanted to go home. This guy threw hot dogs at us and we gobbled them down, but we knew we were walking in the wrong part of town. I tried to take the bus, and wouldn't you know, these 2 punks tried to grab me, but I gave them a show. Then we ran down this alley and into the door, and man, I gotta tell you, this ain't no fun no more. Boy, we're having trouble getting home tonight. Everywhere we go, we get into a fight. We're tired and hungry and a terrible sight. Boy, we're having trouble getting home tonight. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that episode, like the 3rd episode, was genuinely very good because it's just the mummies going around like a comedy caper around the city, and you felt like they were having fun with it.
They axed the kid from that one, who,
yes,
as far as token kids go, he's not awful, but it does go to show that the best episode doesn't have him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this was the time where they had kids voiced by kid actors, and that made them more tolerable because it's not someone just doing a screechy, whiny voice.
Oh, completely.
He's not too bad. He does have some relevance to the series, and they work in some good comedy moments with him in some of those first 2 episodes.
He's apparently the reincarnation of the pharaoh Ramses.
Yes,
which is a terrible pun because mummies have wrapping on them. Ramses.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, you see, it's kind of cheeky. When I heard the theme song and it was like, Presley found out he was reincarnated mummy, I was like, oh, this kid's gonna be white. I just know it. So credit that he's not white, but at least ostensibly.
Did you make any sense of the theme song? Because it seems to be a guy who's like kind of mumbling half the words, and it goes in and out.
The theme song pissed me off because it goes like, this isn't exactly it, but I remember the supposed rhyme beat pissed me off because he goes, Presley got news he was a pharaoh this year, back when mummies ruled the world.
Yeah, it's too many words. And like when mummies ruled the world, and now a sorcerer named Scarab wants to steal his eternal life, and he just kind of drifts up like remember,
And every
they
time
are the mummies.
Rhyme, it just doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, why have you done this? It's good music though. The music bit is really catchy, and they should have just kept it to mummies. Da, 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 they are the mummies, and just left out the rest of the words.
That's all I would need to sit down and watch the show. I don't need the premise.
I do like the lyric, they're going to save the world today the Egyptian way. I thought that was quite catchy.
A little boy named Presley found a secret out this year, that he was once a pharaoh when Egyptians ruled the world, and now the sorcerer named Scarab tries to get him day and night. But Presley has more guardians to protect his very life. He has the mummies. Protection from the new Ramsey. They're hanging by the crystal bay. Protectors of the world today. He has the mummies. From the 55 BC. He has the mummies. Protects our pharaoh team. He has the mummies. They're hanging by the western gate. He has the mummies. They're gonna save the world today. The Egyptian way, the mummies alive.
The mummy equivalent of kick some shell is kick some tut, which I also like.
Yeah, I thought bit of a tenuous pun there, but I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. How's the villain of this one? We got Scarab.
He also mumbles. He was very a bit too softly spoken. Like, I understand he was going for a low-key performance, but sometimes I was like, excuse me, Scarab, could you speak up a bit? Because it's just like, I will find that boy and I will become immortal. What? Do you think you could raise your voice, sir? I like that. I didn't realize this until after I'd watched the episode, but he masquerades as Harris Stone, I think it is. He's like a billionaire. And Harris Stone was the guy who found him in the flashback. So he killed him and took his identity, which I thought was didn't realize.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
Woe to him who breaks the seal, for he shall... I did it! Find of a lifetime.
Do not go in, it is cursed!
Yusef, whatever's in there hasn't been able to hurt anyone for 3,500 years. I don't think it's going to start now. It's empty. These aren't hieroglyphs, more like someone counting. Yusef? Yusef? At last.
I always like when cartoon villains get to like masquerade as millionaires. That's always pretty fun.
Yeah, there seems to be one in like loads of shows that we've watched before. They've got their like the public face.
Yeah. I was also he has that talking staff too.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been trained that whenever a villain has like a sentient artifact, they're kind of the brains of the operation. And it almost seems as though the staff is comedic relief.
It was yeah, she was just kind of there to like banter with him, really.
Yeah.
Like
I thought you can't like a Shendu or Wuya situation where the immobile artifact, so to speak, is kind of in charge, but she didn't really seem to have her shit together.
Oh, are you having the dream again?
You can't know what it's like. An eternity in the dark, alone, over 3,000 years without the sun.
No wonder you've got such a lousy 10.
Well, we didn't go with Scott McNeil. We have a rare foppish Scott McNeil in this one.
We do, the rare fop McNeil.
Is fop like a bad term? Is it okay to say fop?
I think so, yeah. It's just like it's like an effete sort of gentleman, isn't it? Like
yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna flatly explain he's kind of the erudite brains of the operations as Wrath, the scholar of the mummies.
Yeah, he's usually like, I always associate him with being lizard people and snake people, of which I think he is one in this.
He gets like snake armor when he fights.
He does. There's always a snake connection with Scott McNeil.
Yeah.
I thought the vehicles were weird. They have like a sarcophagus car.
That was, I think, they had a terrible name for it. I'm blank. It was like a pun on hot rod, like hot tomb or hot, maybe tomb rod. It was something like that.
I'm gonna look it up. It's it's the hot rod.
The hot rod. That was it. Totally to sell toys. Like
it was we didn't see it in the episodes we watched, but I just saw another one come up. I don't even know how to say it. It's a combination of the skycophagus.
The skycophagus.
Skycophagus, and it's like a flying sarcophagus plane.
Yeah.
They were very strange, and they did not fit the aesthetic of the rest of the show.
But they were like, they kind of. Here's the thing: is that they kind of throw them at you pretty, because like the mummies wake up, and it's like, all right, mummies, hot rod, right in that first scene.
I don't really remember them doing like an origin for it, unless I missed it. Just sort of shows up out of nowhere.
I don't know if anyone was asking for one.
Who was your favorite character in this, aside from the two cops?
Wrath was up there. I also liked Amon. He was the big muscle guy who needed a prosthetic arm to fight, and he was just like, "I'm gonna go find some hot dogs." I thought that tickled me a bit. He had a lot. It wasn't Bill Fagerback. I don't think it doesn't quite sound like him, but he had a lot of Broadway energy. That's whenever I picture him in my head, I picture him with Bill Fagerback talking.
I think, yeah, he was probably my favorite as well. I enjoyed Nefertina as well. But,
he was cool. I always I'm tickled by woman pretends to be a man and gets away with it for however long in weird, like, antiquated society, and then she's like, actually, I'm a woman and I can kick all of your asses.
Yeah, it's a good sort of solid Cree Summer performance. Always nice to see it show up.
Who are you guys?
I am Jakal, this is Armon and Raph, and he is Nefer.
You mean she?
No, you're just a boy. How would you know? No.
Actually, the prince is right. I am Nefertina. I only pretended to be a man, since women are not allowed to drive the chariots of the Pharaoh.
No wonder he never went swimming in the Nile with us.
No one else really stood out to me. The villain was a bit bland in this one.
Yeah, he's not phenomenal. He's all right. Could have been a good, like, Mumra one-off hire gets killed in Disney versus non-Disney. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he needed a more distinct voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you'd had, I don't know, like say Tim Curry was playing him, I think he would have been more fun.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. He would have been down at the time. Man.
I don't think he had enough people to play off of either.
Right. Well, like almost all, besides that staff we mentioned, all of his minions were just like sentient chunks of limestone.
Yes. they none of them could talk and none of them could hold a conversation. And he gets the dog guys, but he doesn't really have any scenes with them, and then they're gone after that episode. It felt like he needed his own Bebop and Rocksteady or something.
I thought it was a little bit cool. We saw of him in the flashback episode. It's kind of a scheming Jafar type. We learned he had a place close to Rapses before he betrayed them and kind of set all this into action.
I saw some concept art. You say Jafar there, and like he looked so much like Jafar. I think they toned it down a bit for the series, but I was like, that's just a picture of Jafar. Maybe they were influenced by that.
Well, I feel like Jafar's design is so suited to something with I can't imagine Jafar, a character as detailed and weirdly shaped as Jafar, looking good without like the maximum budget to move him properly. You know what I mean?
Yes, like in Return of Jafar.
Yeah,
where he looks kind of odd.
Point.
Yeah. I mean, you even had a snake staff. I can't believe I didn't think of that as my first connection.
Right.
Both of them have
a lot of Jafar going on. This guy has big Jafar cannon fodder in a villain tournament energy.
Yeah, you're right. He would have been on. I'm sure. Going back to DV&D, we planned to use him at some point as like a Ramses affiliate.
Oh yeah, I feel like he had to have come up. Like I generally have a pretty good handle on who we just never got around to. I feel he had to have come up.
I remember having ideas to use Ramamon from Conan the Adventurer because he's an Egyptian themed one, and I'm sure Scarab was like at the back of my mind as he would show up for like a fight or two. So
with content from 90s Mummy Mania, apparently we had no limit to mummies we could pull from.
The amount of Egyptian, we could have had a massive Egyptian faction looking back. And we missed our chance.
Anakaris could have been there.
Who was that, sorry?
From Darkstalkers.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there were so many.
With Brendan Fraser Mummy Show, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, there had to have been. I guess like what drew me to the show, this is what I wanted Darkstalkers to look like a little bit of anime edge and some nice detail and some nice shading and shadows, a little darker. If Darkstalkers looked like this, I probably wouldn't mind it at all.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because this is nice to look at.
Yeah,
I think this is very pleasing on the eye, and none of it looked like sloppily animated like Darkstalkers was. Darkstalkers just all over the place, inconsistent, wildly inconsistent between scenes. This was always very consistent and pleasant.
I guess this is just ideal Darkstalkers if every character was Anakaris.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll ask you. Would you recommend Mummies Alive? Would you recommend it to who's a famous Egyptian person from the 90s? Who did you say?
Tim Curry.
He said Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey again.
Would you recommend it? Would you recommend it to Rachel Weisz if she walked in? From Rachel Weisz from the Mummy film with Brendan Fraser. She was Evie. Married to Daniel Craig now. I wish I was married to Rachel Weisz. Well, would you recommend it to her?
I know who the co-star in the Mummy. Rachel Weisz has just not been like a household name for me. Forgive me.
How bizarre. Well, maybe you should go and watch it again. I'm sure you'd appreciate Rachel Weisz in it.
I always liked her. I was always like, she just isn't in like, my thing with actors is I watch their, like, I'll get into them and watch their other big ones. I don't think does she have much else besides the Mummy?
Yeah, the Mummy Returns.
Would you recommend Mummies Alive to the man who's going to change the power dynamic of DC, Black Adam?
Would I recommend it to Black Adam, the fictional character? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, he's like vaguely. He's from Kahndaq, but it's supposed to be Egypt. If Black Adam said heroes don't kill people, but I do. And heroes don't watch cartoons, but would you recommend it to Black Adam?
I suppose so. No, I've never been posed one of these questions before. I'm on the other end of it, and it's difficult to wade your way through the nonsense when you're on the receiving end of this. God, how do you do it?
Know how it feels.
How have you done it for 2 years? God, it's just a horrible experience. Me just throwing Dan Aykroyd things at you every time. Yeah, I would. I'd recommend it.
Don't worry.
I'd recommend it to Black Adam.